Pittsburgh Steelers are coming off a dominant victory in Week 6 on the road against the Raiders. They are going to be going up against the New York Jets, who had a tough, devastating loss on Monday Night Football to their division rival. Aaron Rodgers and the team's looking to bounce back as they travel to Pittsburgh to take on Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Week 7 matchup between the Jets and Steelers. Talk about the matchups within the game that you need to look out for, and at the very end of the video, provide our predictions on who we think is going to win and why. But before we get into that, we do have a goal of getting to 100 new subscribers for the Week 7 prediction videos we have going out. We've been able to hit that goal over the past several weeks thanks to all the new members to our channel. So if this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win and why. And so, Ryan, Pittsburgh Steelers are coming off another business-like performance here. That puts them at 4-2 on the season. Sorry, let me go. Yeah, 4-2 on the season here. Going up against a Jets team who just fell to 2-4 after a tough loss. They absolutely had their opportunities, miscues and missed field goals. Helped me actually win some money on the game, so thank you, Jets. But Jets fans who are watching this, I apologize deeply. But I feel like with this Jets team, though, I feel like they're there, especially too after the Robert Saleh firing. I feel like they're right there. They just need to clean up a couple of things. And like if you go look at some of their games here, and which we'll break down here in a second, they've had some opportunities and a couple plays go their way. Their record could be the same as the Steelers. So I want to throw it over to you here. What do you think of both of these two teams 6 weeks through the season? Because they're both playing a unique brand of football, thanks to some of the limitations I think that they have to work around.
Yeah, I mean, starting off with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm a little surprised that they are where they are. However, this is a Mike Tomlin coach team, and he's never finished below 500. So I like this Steelers team. I think that's probably right where they will end up. Borderline playoff team. They're going to be good, play good, disciplined football, and they're not going to give you any freebies. And to me, I think that's exactly what they've been. I think you look at their schedule so far, and they've had the tough loss to the Colts, a tough loss to the Cowboys, where the Cowboys tried to give that game away, but they beat your Falcons in Week 1. They beat Denver in Los Angeles, and then they beat the snot out of the Raiders in Week 6. So all in all, like some good wins in there. They're not blowing teams out of the water. I guess they blew the Raiders out of the water, but they're just playing good, disciplined football and capitalizing on other teams' mistakes. And with the Jets, to me, I think that is kind of one of the problems that they've had is they've had good series of play in there, but then they have these spells of just mistakes and miscues and miscommunications, and I think that was part of the reason that led up to why Robert Saleh was fired and Nathaniel Hackett was replaced as the offensive coordinator. Was just the communication was not where it needed to be for this team to be successful. So hopefully they can start to build upon that and get this team back on track, because 2-4 is not where you want to be with a 40-year-old quarterback who has this season and maybe another, I think, where he still is going to be playing good quality football.
Yeah. No, I thought with the transition to Todd Downey as the offensive coordinator, obviously the first half they came out hot against I would say a solid Bills defense. They've been reeling a little bit the past couple of weeks, but still I was definitely put them in the above average category. And so I thought they came out hot, took advantage of their opportunities. Offensive line looked great as well. But then in the second half, it's kind of the same things of just a bad holding call at a certain time. They got inside the red zone, just couldn't capitalize, and had to take a field goal as well. Then on top of that, too, they had multiple missed field goals as well throughout the game. Not to put everything on Greg Zuerlein, but we'll have to kind of see what his job status might be after this week, because had an opportunity to win the Denver game against them. Once again, too, not entirely his fault, because the Jets seemed to have played that well that week either.
That was also in a slop fest of the weather.
True, yeah. Fair, and it's easy for me to point out those specific plays because they're so black and white. Like either you make it or you miss the field goal. And there's a bunch of other things that the team needs to keep improving on, is just like not shooting themselves in the foot. We started to see that a little bit towards the end of the game today as well in the second half. So they just need to keep polishing those things up because they're going to be going up against a Mike Tomlin team who just doesn't seem to normally be making that mistakes, especially too. You have Justin Fields at quarterback who's been doing a solid job at quarterback, taking care of the ball. Definitely a run first team. If we go back and look at the stats from this past week, obviously only 14 for 24 for 145 yards, 35 carries by the team for 183 yards. They got up pretty quickly against the Raiders and then kept it that way for a long time, and it was very easy to run over them. But in general, though, this Pittsburgh Steelers team is one of the better rushing teams in the league, 9th overall rushing yards per game. They're 28th in passing yards. But as I said, that's just the style of game that they play. And one of the things that's going to be really interesting for me looking into this game here, going up against a solid Jets defense, especially too with Quinn Williams leading that way, the defensive line, is this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is severely banged up. They've already lost James Daniels for the season. Nate Herbig and Troy Fatano are on IR, if not already done for the season as well. I need to go back and double check that. Zach Frazier got hurt as well during this past game and did not return. So his status is something that we're going to have to monitor throughout the week. And that's important, too, just because if it's already a run-first team, one of the best ways, obviously, to run the ball is you need to have a solid offensive line. You saw it tonight by the Bills here as well without James Cook, but still they had a rookie running back run for almost 100 yards against this same Jets defensive line. The Steelers are about to go and play. If the Steelers' offensive line is not healthy and they're having backups go in against this team, I'm wondering what effect that might have on the rushing game. Maybe it'll be nothing, but it's definitely just lacking my confidence a little bit in their ability to be a run-first team and not have to rely on Justin Fields throwing the ball. And that's where when Justin Fields throwing the ball, the opportunity for errors increased tremendously. And so it will be at home. He has had some good performances against good defenses at home. For example, the Los Angeles Chargers was a solid game for him and in the throwing department as well. As a team, let me just go and double check this as well. 232 passing yards against that Los Angeles Chargers team. That was definitely a grinded out kind of game. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe this is a similar style of game that they have to go and play, maybe defensive first, but then they'll have to see if they can break out a little bit in the second half and try and stymie Aaron Rodgers and this Jets offense.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too, that I was going to bring up is this Jets offensive line, especially in that second half, was really giving up a lot of pressure and quarterback hits to this Bills defense. And this Bills defense is good, but I think you look with guys with the likes of TJ Watt, they don't really have anybody near that status. Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, those are good edge rushers. They're not TJ Watt in the slightest. So another thing, too, it looks like CJ Mosley is off the injury report for the Jets. That will be a big one because for me, one of the things that we kind of saw in the Raiders game was after Zach Frazier went out and this offensive line struggled, their running game relied more on Najee Harris breaking tackles to get those bigger chunk runs. They were still getting some push in the running game, but relying on Najee Harris to break tackles against that Raiders defense versus this Jets defense, I think is going to be two totally different things. So that'll be very important for him to play.
And I will say to add on that real quick, Chuck Clark did lead the game early today for the Jets. So once again, maybe CJ Mosley comes back, but then if you lose Chuck Clark, what effect is that going to have overall on the defense? I would say probably significant, similar to CJ Mosley not being on the field as well.
Yeah. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how these matchups play out. All in all, I think it might be a net even, like across the board. But I will say this Jets pass protection is very concerning, especially with a 40-year-old quarterback being back there. That's just not – it's not the – they made, in my opinion, they made some of the right moves. It's just they haven't panned out as well as they probably would have hoped.
Yeah. No, it's this game. I think it's going to be very interesting too, because then I'm obviously as a Falcons fan just remembering TJ Watt just absolutely burning Caleb McGarry over and over again, and that is an absolute possibility. I think kind of going into this game, and so. But that being said, though, Rodgers did get hit some, got some sacks and some pressures, but it was an improvement overall. They were able to run the ball a little bit better, I would say, against the team, get a little more big breakaway plays. So maybe they're making the right adjustments. And now with Todd Downey having a full week as the offensive coordinator and some game film and kind of review some of the play calling and everything, maybe that'll help out as well. So it's going to be an interesting game. This is one of the more unique games of the week. Actually, just a lot of really good games in week 7, and this one's no different. A lot of major playoff implications as well as we start to kind of get into the middle third of the season. So moving to the predictions here. This is the last game that we are doing that we're recording on, as it's right after the Monday Night Football game. So, Ryan, I'll save you the ability to go last in this. And so I've been going back and forth in my head here, watching the Monday night game. Like the Jets look really good in the first half. Now at the end of the second half, it's like I don't know what they're going to be able to go and do. I'm going to go with the home team here in Pittsburgh. I think that they're going to play well at home. I think it's going to be a similar type of game as what it was with the Chargers when they were at home, where it's going to be kind of grinded out. I think they're going to find a way to win. And I think once again, maybe the Jets are just going to have some more miscues because the Jets don't really have that X factor. That's something that a team like the Cowboys had, where they had that CeeDee Lamb connection. Garrett Wilson is really good, but it's just not that CeeDee Lamb connection as well, where there's an other additional X factor. And so maybe that's not even really a good reason why I'm picking the Steelers. I think I'm just going to pick the Steelers. I'm just picking the Steelers to win this game.
I'm going with the Steelers too. I think the Steelers defense can kind of take this game over with how dominant they can be over this Jets offensive line all across the board. That to me, I think is going to be the biggest thing holding this Jets team back, is just that they cannot protect Aaron Rodgers right now. And I'm curious to see the stats because maybe I'm overhyping that second half a little bit more. And I do think they did a better job of protecting him in the first half. It's just the Steelers at home, this seems to be the type of game that they always win by like 3 or 4 points. So I'm going to say 27-23 is going to be the final score here.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a good one. That's a lot of points extra for the Steelers to score, even though they just put up 32. But
yeah,
crucial game, I think, for both of these teams as well. And I just want to talk about this real quick because the Jets are about to get a little bit of a breather, I would say, with some opportunities here, because after this game, then they play your Patriots again. With Drake May at quarterback, it's going to be different. Then they do host Houston, so that's going to be a tough game. But then they're at Arizona, host Indianapolis, and then host Seattle, then at Miami, at Jacksonville. So they are about to go on a fairly decent stretch of games against much weaker opponents. They have had kind of a tougher stretch, especially record-wise. In these first 6 games. While the Steelers, this is a huge game here because they play them. They play the Jets this week. They play the Giants the week after that. Then they have a bye in week 9. Then they go at Washington, Baltimore, at Cleveland, at Cincinnati, Cleveland, and then at Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. That's the rest of their schedule. Their schedule is about to get tougher outside of, I would say, Cleveland. But that being said, though, it is still a division game. And also the Pittsburgh-Cleveland rivalry is also historic as well. So their schedule is about to get a lot tougher compared to maybe a little bit of an easier schedule that they had earlier on in the season. So getting as many wins as possible now to kind of help stake themselves into a wild card spot, it's going to be crucial, especially with all the division games they have coming up.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a close one. We are both taking the Steelers. I actually thought we would disagree on this one, but let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the New York Jets? Will it be the Pittsburgh Steelers? Know that we'll see you guys next time.